Hey, what's up? Jeff Lerner here. Excited to be with you as always. It's that time for me to go live. I have to start by giving a profound apology for missing my scheduled time yesterday. I actually hurt my neck at the gym yesterday, and I was literally laid out the entire day on muscle relaxers and anything I could find to soothe pain and allow me to just lay there like a zombie. And I will say, I hydrated like crazy and I laid in bed as much of the day as I could. And I will say, I do this a few times a year, but I hurt my neck. It's like an old thing that I tweak. I can tell you it is recovering faster than it ever has before. And hey, Jeff, appreciate that. Yeah, man, my neck, I couldn't sit and look at a screen. Andres, what's up? Man, I love feeling like I was missed. This is amazing. Thank you so much, all of you, for the kind words and at least making me feel like I was missed. So many wonderful people coming on. I want to say hi to everyone. Alex, I feel free to ask your question. I can't promise you I'll answer it, but I can promise you I won't answer it if you don't ask it. Depends if it flows with the content today. Christian, what's up? Man, anyway, I'm excited to be back with you guys, back in my groove. Yes, Michael, I probably would have rocked some of your pain meds. I know that your pain is next level, and I assume your meds are next level. And that would have been amazing if I could have got my hands on some of those. Might have knocked me out for more than a day, though, because my system's not really used to that. But, guys, I got so much to cover today. It's been an amazing day. You know, yesterday, it's crazy when you get it to this place in life where it's like you can't even afford to take a day off. And I don't mean like financially. I just mean like so much momentum, so much excitement, so much energy. Like I don't want to take a day off, and I kind of can't take a day off because I break stride. And you know, I think that's where we want to get. It seems like a theme of conversation the last couple of days has been, you know, the sort of the difference between like trying to create a cushy lifestyle business and trying to just go as all in as we humanly can, because we're designed for creation and exertion and intensity. And with that design, is a lifestyle business really as fulfilling as we think? I think a lot of people think a lifestyle business would be really fulfilling because they're currently doing something that they're not excited about every day. And so they think, well, if I could just get my needs met, if I could just keep surviving, but have to do less, that would be a win. But I think that perspective is guided by never having experienced what it feels like to do stuff that's so fulfilling and so gratifying, that also is how you pay your bills. That there's this delusion that it would be better if it was less. The reality is you want to be steering into things that allow you to do more. And then you won't want to take a day off. Take it from me. So yesterday was actually pretty frustrating for me. Man, the weather is beautiful right now. I wish it would stay this way. I know it's going to get cold. It's been too hot. Pretty soon it'll be too cold, but we get this little window in southern Utah where it's amazing, which was great because I went out the other day in the Can-Am up in the hills, and we shot some ad videos with the drone, and it was amazing. And I was just so grateful for the weather, but I do know it's not going to last. Christian asked about the mini documentary. Yes, we have a documentary on ENTRE, and I'm grateful for all the people that have volunteered to contribute to that and share your experience, the impact that ENTRE or my work has had on you. We will be reaching out. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been another awesome day and another string of awesome days and awesome weeks and awesome months that are driven by the simple passion and enthusiasm for loving what I do every day. And I don't say that to beat my chest. I don't say that to be like, oh, look at me, I get to love what I do every day. It is available for everyone. That is my message. In fact, I've had I had 3 interviews today. 2 of them, I had someone on my show, 2 great guys. One is a guy named Diamond Dallas Page, who's a Hall of Fame WWE wrestler, if you're familiar with him. And he was just amazing. And then the other guy is that I had on my show is a guy named Peter Sage. He was one of Tony Robbins' top trainers for a long time. He's a successful entrepreneur. He's launched like 27 businesses, and he had an incredible story. And I want to share a little bit of, that I took from that interview. And then I also was a guest on, yeah, that's right, I had DDP on the show today, Jeff. What a stud, man. I'm so excited for that interview to come out. And didn't really fully start his wrestling career till he was almost 40. Crazy story. Well, he was at the age where most people have already hung it up, and he was just getting started. Yeah, Davin Michaels was super interesting. We just released that episode today. Davin, I didn't say this on the episode. I don't think I said this on the episode because it wasn't maybe public, or I don't know if it was I said it or not, but I don't remember saying it. But he just oversaw possibly the biggest affiliate launch in history. And I think we actually came in third place in that launch. But just that guy's a stud, man. Check out the interview that got released today on the Millionaire Secrets Show, whether you subscribe to the podcast or if you subscribe to the podcast or you check it out on YouTube. The Davin Michaels episode is tremendous. Yeah, so interviewed DDP today, interviewed Peter Sage today. I was a guest on the Dan Henry Show today. You know, the message is getting out there. The mission is getting out there. It's so cool. Because it's, ooh, yeah. Hey, Miko, can you DM me that about some guy in Utah who just bought a Bugatti? Not because he bought a Bugatti, but because he's doing, it sounds like some really cool things. I would love to get connected with him. And Brian, yeah, man, there's so much conversation going on. I love it. Brian, you mentioned DDP's exercise program, which is DDPY, Diamond Dallas Page Yoga. And he actually we're going to have him back on in a few months for a whole other episode just about his exercise program, his yoga program. He actually gave me a membership. He said, I want you to try this out to the DDPY Jacked program. It's like their most advanced program, and I'm going to try it out and then have him back on the show to discuss it. Hold on. Somebody says they posted a question. You know what? Angel, repost that question if you would. I can't even scroll through all the Instagram comments. Man, so much going on. While I'm waiting on that question, I'm going to share this amazing takeaway from Peter Sage. So Peter, again, he was one of Tony Robbins' top trainers. And by the way, if you haven't picked up on the theme of my show, like why did I start Millionaire Secrets? It's because I want you, the you plural, you out there, the world out there, to hear, to see, to observe irrefutably that there are so many people out there achieving massive success outside the lane of the traditional college and corporate path, that it becomes something you can no longer accept as maybe, or no longer resist as maybe, oh, that's meant for other people, not for me. Or maybe that's doable by them, but not for me. And yes, secrets is the highest converting keyword. I'm glad you caught that, Miko. That's why our show is called Millionaire Secrets. That's why our ad pitches are for secrets. I mean, secrets are huge, right? So anyway, yeah, I'm getting all off track here, but this Peter Sage guy had such an amazing story. So listen to this. This guy got held in contempt in a civil lawsuit in the United Kingdom. Civil lawsuit, not criminal. No charges against him, didn't break any laws. It's just a civil business dispute. And was using some aggressive tactics, and they were a multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500 company, and they were able to get him held in contempt of court. And he ended up having to go to jail for 6 months. And he was in a jail in the United Kingdom for 6 months that was one of the most dangerous jails in the country. Angel, I'm still not seeing that question. You said you put it again, but it's not actually showing in the comments. Anyway, he was in jail for 6 months, even though he broke no laws. Crazy story. Brilliant guy, started lots of multi-million-dollar businesses, CEO, super well networked, friends with a lot of top people, but shit happens, right? And he went into that jail based on his framework, the way he talks about it, this framework of consciousness, where, and I'm going to set up the framework and then tie it back into the story of how it showed up for him in this incredible adversity. He said the lowest level of consciousness is to me, what he called to me. Life happens to me. The world happens to me. My job happens to me. My family happens to me, right? And where you want to get from there is the next level would be by me, right? In other words, things get done by me. They don't happen to me. They get done by me, right? Or for me or of me in the world. And then the highest level of consciousness, and I love this, is things happen through me. There's some sort of greater created call or imperative of human existence that if I can channel it through my actions, it's no longer for me, it's no longer from me, it's through me. And it is the most fulfilling state to operate from. And as he said it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's happened for me. Here I was, 2 years ago. Frankly, I had worked really, really hard in a by me state to say, like, I'm going to show the world, I'm going to prove what Jeff Lerner can do because I have insecurities, I have inadequacies, I have childhood baggage, I have trauma, I have all this old shit that I'm trying to cast off by finally being good enough. And I showed the world a decent dose of by me, but it was also tiring. It was exhausting. It left me tired at the end of the day. And I look back and I'm like, why did I sell my agency? My agency was doing great. I could have had a great business. I had a lifestyle business. I had a business that paid me really well, like way more than most doctors, and I hardly did any work. Why did I sell it? To start this ENTRE thing that is a ridiculous amount of work. I work 14 hours a day now because I was ready to live through me. I was ready to be done with by me and stop showing the world what I could do on my own and start living through me and start channeling what I felt like was my calling to do, to see what would happen in the world. And I will tell you, that switch has been the most fulfilling switch that I've ever flipped in my life. Not to mention that the success is all still out there for the taking. You can live through me and be just as successful as you were when you were living by me, but you'll have a lot more energy and you'll have a lot more fun. And as he was describing it, I realized, oh my gosh, that's what I'm experiencing. And it is, I wish somebody had told me that 20 years ago. Why did I wait 20 years? Jeff, that's a great question about finding all the podcasts that I've been a guest on. Hold on. I'm going to boot this guy. So yeah, I'm putting that list together as well. And I'll get that out to the world. But anyway, so this through me framework, this guy gets tossed in jail for 6 months. And he's like, why is this happening? What is this meant to be? I know I'm meant to serve. How am I meant to serve? And he went into jail and he said, this is what he told me. He said, I had been on hundreds of podcasts. I had written books. I had spoken around the world. I had influenced millions of people. But the day I got sentenced or held in contempt to go to jail for 6 months at one of the most violent jails in the United Kingdom, he said, I realized that maybe the point was that even though my work had impacted millions of people, maybe it hadn't impacted some of the people that needed it the most because they were literally behind bars and didn't have access to it. And he said, I realized then that this was going to be an opportunity to impact an audience that myself nor most other people would probably ever be able to reach. And he went into that jail. He said, I went into that jail, but I was never a prisoner. I was there to do a job. I was there to do some work. And in those 6 months, he not only helped people, talk people off the ledge from suicide, helped people overcome addictions, helped people decide to leave their lives. And changes in the intake system in the United Kingdom jail system that are now being rolled out across the country. He uplifted the quality of the jail process by going in not as a convict, but as a double agent. He said, I'm here to do work. I was being sent in here to do work that could only be done from the inside. Okay, guys, how ridiculous is that? Let's all really, really look at ourselves. Oh, by the way, when he got thrown in jail, he had a company with over 50 employees. He was doing multiple 6 figures a month. He was building another multi-million-dollar business. And within 3 days, he lost all 50 of his employees. He had to cancel events. He had to suspend fulfillment on products that people had paid for. And so when he went into jail, he had lost everything. He lost his business. He lost his staff. He could have potentially lost all of his customers. And that's how he went in. Can we all really honestly say to ourselves that we have the discipline and the maturity to maintain that perspective in such a situation? I was challenged. I was very challenged by that story because honestly, I've worked really hard to evolve to a certain place. And I do like to think I have a pretty good handle on personal development and sort of mindset. And I was like, bro, I'm inspired. I'm awed. Like, I don't think I could even release right now without, you don't know until you're in that situation, but to really say, could I show up that way? And can I show up that way every day in everything? That was my takeaway. And it was so powerful. And through that, he said he wrote letters to all of his clients, all of it to his CEO elite group or whatever. He wrote letters from inside the jail. And when he got out, he said, not only did they say, thank you for the letters, but they said, those letters you wrote us were the best coaching we ever got from you. And he didn't lose his coaching clients. They stayed with him through 6 months in jail when he was writing them letters based on what he was experiencing on the inside. And they said it was the most valuable content he ever produced. He got out, he took those letters, put them into a book. It's now an international best-selling book, and it's being licensed and they're making a movie out of it. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. I was challenged. I was convicted, but I was also liberated by that story. I hope it's powerful for you too. And then on top of it, I got to talk to Diamond Dallas Page as well today. Mind blown, right? So this guy tried out to be in wrestling when he was 23 years old, hurt his knee, didn't work out. And yeah, Jeff, so we're getting the link. And I'll be able to distribute access to that book. It's just unreal, the story. But anyway, so then I'm talking to Diamond Dallas Page. So this guy hurts his knee at 23, doesn't get to live out his dream of being a wrestler. Oh, ends up working in the bar business till his early 30s. And then he's just chilling out, drinking with his friends one day. Hey, beautiful. Thanks for being on here. My wife just came on. Jacqueline, love you. Always appreciate your support. So Diamond Dallas Page, he ends up over a decade later, he's sitting there with his buddies. I say his buddies, like his team at the bar. He's the manager of the bar. And they're talking, and he's always doing these voices. And he said, I had this inspiration. He said, I was telling them the story about how I tried out for wrestling. And they were like, well, what was your name? And his name was like, I forget. It was Page something, something. Like his first name's actually Page, and his last name is like, kind of like an awkward, foreign sounding name with lots of consonants that just doesn't roll off the tongue for English speakers. And it's a name that's going to get hard to get traction with in US marketing, right? And, this is nothing new. A lot of actors with long international sounding names, they Americanize their names to get traction. And he said, I was talking to my guys and they were like, well, yeah, of course it didn't work out, man. You had this clunky ass name. Like, what about Diamond Dallas Page? And he said, I had this moment where I realized this is one of those moments. This is one of those things they tell you about where it's like, don't just think it, ink it. Let me say that again. Don't just think it, ink it. He said, I wrote it down. I wrote down Diamond Dallas Page. So I'm just a bar manager chilling in his office, counting the night's receipts. I got my head bartender and a few other guys in my office. We're all drinking but I wrote down Diamond Dallas Page. And then I started to doodle. I was like, well, what if Diamond Dallas Page was a manager, not a wrestler, but a manager? Because, supposedly I'm too old to be a wrestler. And he's like, what if I had these hot girls with me all the time, and I called them Diamond Dolls? And he's like, I started sketching out this whole thing, and I won't retell his whole story because he shared it more articulately than I could, certainly on the podcast, and it'll be released when it's released. But long story short, he said there was another moment a few weeks later where the news station was interviewing, they were doing a story on him because he was kind of a big personality. And he said, while they were doing the interview, I'm sitting in my office and I looked down at this piece of paper where I had written Diamond Dallas Page. And suddenly I started doing this voice. I'm Diamond Dallas Page. I got my hot dogs and, whatever. I don't remember everything he said, but he's like that. He goes, if I hadn't written down those 3 words, Diamond Dallas Page, then weeks later, when I'm in a situation where suddenly this character can start to have a little bit of life because they're in there filming. It's like, if I don't have it written down on my desk, it doesn't prompt me to actually go into character during this thing. So he goes into character during this news story. It ends up getting to some local DJ. He ends up coming on a radio show with a DJ. And he's like, but dude, he goes, this is a joke. I don't do this. I'm not involved in wrestling. And the guy's like, I don't care. I want to have you on anyways. And it turns out he gets invited onto an episode where there's an actual wrestling manager who's going to be on the show named Lou Albano, which is not a guy I know because I wasn't a huge wrestling fan. But he's like, dude, you mean Captain Lou Albano is going to be on your show and I can be there with him? And he's like, okay, screw it. Diamond Dallas Page is showing up. And he shows up and he ends up, long story short, one thing leads to another. And there's an opportunity where he gets a phone call and they're basically like, yo, send us this video. Like, can you send us an audition video or something to capture your thing? And he goes, the problem was Diamond Dallas Page didn't exist. It was just a stupid idea I had in my head. But sure enough, he's like, I went and I rented out a space and I called up some of my buddies who were pretty big and looked like they worked out. And I went and I went down to a local, like a strip club, and got some of the strippers to come be my diamond dolls. And he got this video shoot together and created this whole personality where he's like managing these wrestlers that are not real wrestlers. And he's got these dolls that are really just the local strippers. And he's like doing this character that's not a real character. And all because he wrote down these 3 words on a piece of paper one night. And sure enough, that audition tape gets to some people that get to some people. And he ends up getting brought in as a manager. And there's other things he had to overcome because he was never supposed to be a wrestler. He was just supposed to be a manager. And he had 7 months left on his management contract. And he decided, I'm going to go down to this school and learn to become a wrestler. And they all laughed at him all over again. Like one thing after the other, and one of the things he said, this was the most powerful thing he said in the interview for me personally. He said, they were right to laugh at me because what I wanted to do was laughable. They were right to laugh at me based on the probabilities and the data and the environment and the circumstances within the world that we live in. It was a laughable thing that I wanted to do. And the people that laughed at me were well within their right to laugh at me. But he's like, I had to be just as right to keep going. In other words, when the world says something is a very low probability outcome, which by the way, whatever big dream you have, go ahead and understand it's a very low probability dream. The likelihood of your dream coming true exactly as you see it is probably about the same as Diamond Dallas Page's dream of becoming a professional wrestler when he was 35 years old and had already missed the boat. He said, but somehow I had to be just as right in my belief as they were right in their laughter because they were right to laugh at me. And that's the hardest thing. That's the thing that look at Peter Sage saying, you know what? I just got sentenced to 6 months in jail on a civil contempt case. I'm not even a criminal, but I have to go hang out with hardened criminals for 6 months. But you know what? I'm just going to turn it into a win, man. I'm going to use it to create content for my coaching program, and I'm going to inspire people from within. And I'm also going to go inside and try to reform the jail system and try to help some people. You think people wouldn't have laughed at that? Dude, Peter, come on, man. Just keep your head down. Do your time. Don't get shanked. Get the hell out of there, man. You're not going in to save the world. Peter had a different idea, and he had to be just as right in his idea as everyone, as the combined weight of everyone else were in theirs. And that's the hard thing. You, me, we're just one man or woman, one human. How do we be as right as the entire world is in thinking that our dreams won't come true? That's the hardest thing. I've had to do it. I've had to do it multiple times. 2 years ago, I was just puking out content on the internet about how, yeah, there's an opportunity out there. You can change your life. You can become empowered. You can adopt a spirit of excellence and believe in conviction and start taking disciplined action and give yourself years, because that's what it really takes. But trust me, the life is out there, man. You can have the awesome life that you want. And most of my feedback was, who's this loser? Why is this loser on the internet? Why is this guy in my feed? Why is this ugly guy in my feed talking noise? I don't want to hear this guy. And I'm like, why don't you just, unsubscribe or tell Facebook, do not show me more of this content? Why do you even have to bother to chime in and try to knock me down, right? Why? And it was thousands and thousands. I remember my family used to be, Jeff, how do you put up with this? How do you endure this? And at one point it started to really get to me, and I had to say to my assistant, I'm like, can you just please start handling my social media comments and just delete the ones that are really mean and hurtful, because it's just bad energy for me to look at it. Listen, guys, it's hard. It's hard. It's ridiculously hard. People, even to this day, I get consultants and even people internally, but Jeff, is there any way you could just dial back the message about how hard it is? Like, I don't know. People don't really like being told things are hard. Can you just pull it back? Like, just round the corners, soften a little bit, please. And I'm like, no, hell no. It's hard, dude. It's hard. Think about that moment in school when you were convinced that everybody was laughing at you and you were the biggest nerd in the whole school. Imagine that moment. Only now, take all your clothes off. In other words, see that moment and raise it to the power of actual naked vulnerability. And then make that moment as real in your mind as possible and stay in it and tolerate that moment. And you are starting to scratch the surface of the stamina and the fortitude that it requires to do amazing things in this world. You're starting to touch it. You're not actually touching it because you're just in your head. At some point, you're going to have to hold that space when it's really happening to you in the moment. Christian said he had someone today tell him to die in hell and just keep living poor. There you go. Stand right up. That's about them. It's not about you. Most people will go 100 lifetimes, though, and never actually develop the ability to tolerate that. That's why they never break through. And this isn't my theory anymore. I started the Millionaire Secrets podcast because I wanted to know, am I alone? Is this a crazy philosophy? Am I such a misfit and a delinquent that there's no true understanding or resonance? Or is there actually a whole cult of people out there that all think these crazy ways and do big things, bigger things than I've done? And they're out there. Every single new interview I do on Millionaire Secrets, I see a different facet of this wild and crazy belief system that simply says, I can. And in many ways, I can to the extent that I ignore all the conventional wisdom that says I can't or I shouldn't. And now I'm affirmed. Now I know there's a giant club of us, not just the people I talk to on the Millionaire Secrets show, but the whole audience, everyone that's here with me right now. Like, we are ridiculous enough to believe in these things, but that ridiculousness isn't actually that ridiculous. That's the whole thing that I got into with Peter. We were actually, and I kind of feel like a broken record at this point. He actually made a comment at one point. He said, I never had the disadvantage of a college education. What? He said, I never had the disadvantage of a college education. This guy dropped out of school when he was 16 years old, started buying toys from a wholesaler and reselling them at a flea market, doubled his money, turned $25 into $50. Then he went and bought $45 and turned it into $90. It cost him $5 to actually show up at the flea market. So he had to save $5, spend the rest on toys, take it back and double it. Within a few months, he had $1,000. Now he's a multi-millionaire. He's lost it and he's won it back multiple times. The guy got thrown in jail for 6 months, lost it all. I didn't finish that story yet, did I? Came out of it. Listen to this. Took him a year, paid off every creditor, fulfilled every product that had been sold, just had the best financial life of his career. And listen to this, thousands and thousands of clients. He only had to issue 2 refunds because he was so transparent and so authentic and so heartfelt through the whole experience. And he told everyone what was going on. And he gave all the value that he could from inside of a jail cell in the form of these letters that got disseminated to his audience. That despite completely disappearing and having his entire business crumble in 6 months, he only had to issue 2 refunds. Everybody else is still a happy, satisfied customer. And in fact, he's got the best business he's ever had now. This was only a few years ago this happened to him. This wasn't like decades ago. Guys, I say it all the time. You know, one of the old original content videos I created, I had a song playing in the background that was that song by Seal, "We're Never Gonna Survive Unless We Get a Little Bit Crazy." It's still one of my favorite songs. Sometimes I just listen to it just to remind myself that, like, I'm not going to survive unless I get crazy. Because here's the thing. For me, survival is not how most people define survival. I don't know what poison berry I must have eaten when I was a kid that polluted my mind and contaminated my system to be forever and permanently incompatible with the idea of trading time for money and just getting by and just having an okay life and just being one of those average people with average problems. I was always so repelled by that idea that for me, the only way to survive is to thrive. And the only way I'm going to survive is to be crazy. Because the world is going to tell us that this is crazy. And anyway, the conversation with Peter Sage was so powerful. I can't wait for these interviews to be released. But we went into the way education is constructed. Have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought, how come in school, and this has been on my mind lately because my daughter Jada, sometimes she'll be like, oh, it's 1:46. I would be getting out of school right now. Have you ever noticed how schools run on the most silly increments of time? Like, okay, all of our classes are going to be 43 minutes and then we're going to have 9-minute breaks and we're going to have a 36-minute lunch. Like, why don't they just do things on the quarter hour or the half hour or the hour? Why do they do it in these weird increments of time? It's like one of the only institutions in our world that runs on these pretty seemingly random increments of time. Any guesses? I'm curious. What do you guys think? I'll wait a moment. I'll bite my tongue on answering the question. Why do you guys think that schools run on these silly increments of time? I'll give you a hint. What happens when the increments of time are up? How do you know that your time is up and it's time to go to the next thing, whatever it is? A bell rings. There's 2 kinds of creatures in this world that are controlled by bells. They are animals that have been trained, and they are factory workers. Christian, you just nailed it. The industrial mindset. They are factory workers. Factories historically ran on similarly irregular schedules. Factories, because they're such finely tuned precision instruments of industry, they would say, hey, we can optimize rebar production if we tighten this shift from 60 minutes to 48 minutes, and if we shorten that break from 30 minutes to 17 minutes, and they're constantly measuring and optimizing to find what is the optimum blend that gives people just as much breathing room, just as much of a respite, just as much recovery time as possible, but not one tiny bit more in order to get them back on the assembly line or at the machine, cranking and maximizing productivity. Human beings get treated like farm animals, right? And taught to respond to bells. If anything, schools should be smarter now, and they should change it just so that they don't show their hand about what they're really training us to do. That's it, man. That's why schools run on those ridiculous schedules, and that's why they punk you around with bells. If you're on my Instagram profile asking who I am, asking me to interrupt my live to tell you who I am, you clearly do not understand leverage or economy of information. My advice to you is scroll, bro, scroll. Don't make me tell 100 people who already know who I am, so that you, the one, can learn who I am. And that's not me like being harsh. That's me teaching you to think like an entrepreneur. Acquire the information as efficiently and non-disruptively as possible. Always. So anyways, bells, schools. Here's the thing. Everybody wants their big outcome, right? Like really, you ask kids, hey, what's happiness to you? They're going to... I'm tempted to respond. I'm going to block out the Instagram noise. This is the highest level of discipline, by the way. Facebook and YouTube are so healthy and positive. Instagram comments are a disaster. Hold on. Eject. I wish there was a simpler way to do that. Anyways, so everybody wants this big outcome, right? And then they're taught that the way to get the big outcome is to follow these steps, right? In, school, college, debt, job, retirement. And yet, clearly the one thing that I think we all learned in school, which was basic math, those of us that have these conversations, we know the math doesn't hold up. They're like, based on your definition of success, the greatest risk you can probably take is signing up for the long-term job program, because it's the highest level of certainty you can get of not achieving the outcome that you want. And yet most people trade the certainty of most people trade the uncertainty around going for the outcome that they actually want. They're literally willing to give that up in exchange for a certainty of an outcome that they don't actually want. So if you ask a kid, what do you want to achieve in this world by the time you retire? And you have them write that down. And then you say, okay, you can either get a job and be put on a path that is almost guaranteed not to lead to that outcome, or you can become an entrepreneur and have a much better chance, although perhaps by some people's definition, also more risk, of actually getting that outcome. And yet, somehow we've taught people to go, okay, just go ahead and chuck the outcome you want and swap it for certainty of an outcome that isn't what you want. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of mind blowing, but that's the world we live in. Anyway, so I always, as you guys know, you guys are privy to my lives and some of the conversations that I have. So, I got to do my kind of inspirational stump speech, because this stuff I believe, I eat, sleep, and breathe. I need to hear it as much myself as anyone else. And I say it because I want to hear it. It comes out my mouth and goes back in my ears too, and hopefully repatterns my brain, just like hopefully it does for everyone. But I also, especially lately, have been trying to be really disciplined on these lives to also give specific tactical guidance. Because one of the things Peter Sage really, really pointed out is he's kind of like, listen, you've got the left brain technicians, you've got the right brain dreamers, but it's a very small group of people that will do both. And actually, I think I should share this. If you're watching my lives and you're like, who is this guy? What is his business? What does he have to offer? Who does he serve? Am I the right fit? Let me say this. This is who I've decided that I'm trying to reach in this world. If you're a fit with this, you're my kind of people. It's dreamers. First word, dreamers. And by the way, that automatically disqualifies a lot of people. First word, dreamers who are willing to learn the skills and do the hard work to achieve their awesome life. Dreamers, learners, hard workers. unique groups of people that all three individually are the minority. Put them all together, you have an even smaller minority, but those are the people that will change the world. If you can hold big dreams and you haven't bailed out on them, or if you have, you're at least willing to reconsider bringing them back into your life, and you love to learn, and you love the hard work. You got all three of those boxes checked, you're my peeps. You can crush it. You can do anything you want in this world. So for those people, I'm going to share with you, the theme, the preordained theme of the live today was about a succession plan. It was about how to future-proof your business so that, look, there's going to be a time where your business is going to need you. But one of the things you have to do that I've been very, very conscious of lately as I'm thinking legacy, one of the things that you have to do in thinking legacy is you actually have to build a business that eventually doesn't need you. And, think about Entre. I mean, we're still right now going through a phase where, frankly, Entre needs me. Like, I'm the face, I'm the voice, I'm the mission, I'm the message, I'm the core ideas. But, even what I'm doing now with Entre, I'm obsessed, not because I want to shirk my responsibility or I want out or it's too much work or any of that. It's because I have a responsibility to make sure that even if I die, Entre's still there. It still serves you. It still serves my family. Building legacy is about getting to where you become optional in your own business, in your own livelihood, right? So I'm just going to share kind of a high level guidance, so to speak. And this, we've been implementing a framework lately called the EOS framework. And this is a little bit of a modified variation on their basic framework. But if you've got a business, and listen, if you don't have a business and you just have a paycheck, I've been evolving my beliefs about this. And I think I've been stopping myself a little bit short, but I think I'm ready to just call it like it is. If all you have is a paycheck and you don't have a business, you probably, never say never, right? Very likely you're not on a path to the life that you want. I think I'm ready to just say that. I think I'm ready to just call it out and say, if you went back to your dreamer state and mapped out the life that you truly want, and then you come map it against the path that you're on with your job or your paycheck, there are just a very, 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 very tiny few people where those roads are the same place. They lead to the same place. It's just so small. It's the world we live in now. It's just almost no one that has a job that can get them to the same place that having a business could get them to. And it doesn't mean it's not the nice thing is it's not a either or. They're not mutually exclusive. That's why they call it a side hustle. You can keep your main gig, but start building, start creating, start delivering value because of this simple truth. In most jobs, there's a reverse relationship between the value you create and the compensation you receive. If you have a job, and here's the thing, I'm comfortable saying this to my own employees. I have a team of 90 people. Not all of them are true employees. There's staff, there's vendors, there's employees. But to my whole team, I am totally comfortable saying this to you as an owner of a business. The best move that I can make as the owner of a business is to extract more value from you while paying you the same or less. That's called profit. And business is a for-profit venture. I'm in business to make an impact and make a profit. And so it's a trade we've agreed to. The employee and the business owner agree to a deal where the business owner is like, I'm going to try to get you to generate more value. And the employee is like, I'm going to try to get you to pay me more money. And the business owner is like, okay, well, cool. I'll pay you more money as long as you create even more value. But frankly, my concern as a business owner isn't the size of the number. It's the gap in the number. I want as big a gap as possible between your value and your compensation, because that difference, that's my profit, right? And you're like, well, no, I want as small a gap as number as an employee because I want to be getting paid what I'm truly worth. And the business owner's like, no, I can never pay you what you're truly worth or I won't have profit anymore. And then you flip that as an employee and you're like, well, if I want to go into my work and I say, hey, I want to make more money, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to deliver twice as much value for the business owner. Well, the business owner, they might see that and go, man, this, let's take Marie. Marie, I didn't know if this is relevant to you or not. You go into work and you're like, I'm like, man, this Marie has been crushing it lately. She's producing twice as much value for me as she used to as an owner. I wonder how long I can ride her out without having to give her a raise. The longer I can hold out on giving her a raise and have her keep double delivering value, man, that's just more profit. That's just more profit, right? And eventually Marie's probably going to go to her boss or, her performance review, or maybe she'll come straight to the owner of the company and say, listen, man, I doubled the amount of value that I've delivered to your company, and it's been a year and you haven't even given me a raise. What am I going to do as the owner? I'm probably going to go, you know what? You're totally right. Been dealing with budgets. I got obligations to the shareholders. The knuckleheads over in, manufacturing, they've been dragging. So we kind of had some compensatory factors, but you're right. You deserve a raise. You know what? Here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give you a bonus, and here's a 5% raise. And she's like, bro, I doubled the value of what I deliver. You're giving me a 5% raise. And I'm like, listen, if I give you a 100% raise, then everybody else is going to be competing and they're going to feel entitlement. It's going to disrupt the culture and it's going to muck up my, no. Right? This is the dynamic. It is not wrong. I am not making a judgment. In fact, I am a participant in it. Hold on, let me eject somebody again. I'm a participant in that dynamic as a business owner, and you will be too. If you're not already, you should be as a business owner. That's the dance we do. So I'm like, great, have a job, but that itch you have to deliver more value and thus to receive more appropriate compensation, don't try to put 100% of that into your job. Why not start a side hustle where you can more specifically control the dial of compensation because it more closely correlates to value? I always believe there should be a gap. I don't ever want to get as much as I give, but I want to be able to get more when I give more. I always say, give 10 times the value of what you ask in return. If I want to make $1 million, I want to have to give $10 million in value. But at least if I want to make $2 million, I go, okay, cool, I need to deliver 20, as opposed to a job where whether I deliver $1 million or $2 million or $10 million worth of value, they're probably still only going to get me, 3 to 5% a year raises, right? You got to have that correlation between value and compensation. And that only exists when you own a business. And that's the reason why owning a business is actually the only way to get to the pot of gold that most people want as their ultimate outcome in life. Because that ultimate outcome, which is simply, I don't think everybody are greedy assholes. I think everybody's just like, I want security. I want to be able to take care of the people I love. I want to be able to bless my family. I want to be able to give to causes that I support. I want to be able to create some cash flow passively so I'm not having to work so hard, because I know when I get older, I'm going to get tired and eventually stuff's going to start to hurt and break down. And that's all I want. But in the world we live in, to actually have that, you need more than what virtually any job is going to pay you. Even if you just go to Merrill Lynch, even if you just go to Edward Jones and Charles Schwab and say, conservatively, how much do I need to retire? They're going to tell you need about $1.5 million. And that's today's dollars, not dollars in 10 or 20 years, which at 3% inflation, the world, everything is going to double in 20, 25 years, less than 25 years. So if you need 1.5 million in today's dollars, but if you're 40, I'm 41, my retirement age wouldn't be for 24 years. Even based on those conservative guidance, they would say, oh, well, by then you're going to need at least 3 million. I actually think the number's already between 5 and 10, depending where you live in the world. You want to have the life that you think you want, which is, $5 million at a low risk 5% rate of return is, what's that, $250,000 a year? It's $20,000 a month. I promise you got 4 kids and you got 7 grandkids and you're trying to bless the world. You'll burn through that. You want to take a vacation every now and then. You want to play a decent round of golf. You want to help your kids when they hit hard times, because they're gonna. Times ain't getting easier. 20 years from now, you don't think your kids are going to be struggling through some hard times that you'd like to be able to help them with, and even maybe their kids? I think it's $5 to $10 million already, but even let's assume 1.5. Most people aren't on a path to a liquid 1.5 million by the time they retire. And if it's 20 years, let's say it's got to be 3 million. Most people aren't on that path. Most people aren't anywhere close. Not anywhere close. And so that's why the only way you're going to get there is to put yourself in an environment where the correlate to the compensation you receive. And that is called entrepreneurship. It's not called employment. Come work for me, deliver twice as much value, and I 100% guarantee you I will not pay you twice as much money. And I'm actually a really generous employer. I'm the employer who wants to have a company of 100 people who all retire as multimillionaires. Most employers are not that employer, but even still being that generous, I'm not going to double your compensation just because you doubled your value. I can't afford to. You can't run a business that way, but you can own a business that way. You can own a business. And in fact, if you double the value, you'll actually make more than twice as much, because usually things get more profitable as they scale because you've got your fixed costs. So if you're creating $200,000 a year worth of value and you're making $40,000 a year profit in your business, and you double that 200 to 400, your income's probably going to more than double from 40 to 80. It's probably going to go from like 40 to 150, because your fixed costs are still covered by the first 40 or by the first 200 in value. You double the value, you're not having to pay twice as much in overhead. You're actually getting to keep more of the money. That's only from business ownership. So all that said, I have found now that there is so much power in from day one trying to craft this business. And the tragedy here is, I mean, admittedly, I guess I should be grateful, because if all this stuff was taught in schools, ENTRE Institute wouldn't need to come along as an alternative to schools. So, you know, I guess I should be grateful for the gap in traditional education. But starting on day one as an entrepreneur, I think it took me a long time to learn this lesson. You will have a much more powerful business if you begin with the end in mind of building your business in such a way that eventually you'll be liberated from it. You'll still get the income, but you won't have to do the work. And that it takes a long time, because most solopreneurs, they're so obsessed with learning how to do all the tasks that drive their business. They're for obvious reasons worried about being able to put on all the hats they need to in order to run their business, that they haven't yet started thinking about, wait, how am I going to take these hats off someday? And you can dig yourself a very deep hole that you could have stayed out of if you'd been planning all along the way and documenting all along the way. So one of the best things I ever did, and I didn't know it when I was doing it, but I was doing it and now I know it and I'm so grateful for it, is whenever I learned something, I would immediately turn around and create a piece of content to teach what I had learned to the audience. So it's like, hey, I just learned how to set up my first sales funnel. Let me shoot a quick YouTube video to teach you how to set up your first sales funnel, because I was like, I need content. I'll just teach what I'm learning. But what I didn't realize is in the process, I was actually documenting what I was learning so that when I wanted to hire somebody to do that for me, I could just have them watch the video. That's the breakthrough takeaway here. The insight is everything you learn about how to do a thing in your business, and every process you create, and every shortcut or hack or system that you assemble in your business to make it more doable in order to make it easier to keep all the plates spinning, be creating them with the idea in mind that you're going to be using them to teach your replacement someday. That's a great question. Somebody says, where are all those funnel videos? They're on an old YouTube channel that I took down a long time ago. But the good news is it's all been recreated much, much better inside of ENTRE Institute now, because we teach people how to build any business, not just how to build an identical business to the one I was building, which was that was the limitation of the training I was creating. Is because I didn't have the perspective, I was creating it in a way that was only narrowly relevant to creating the same business I was creating. Whereas ENTRE now, we teach you the skills to do, virtually any business in the new economy. But it doesn't change it. Initially, your goal is simply to be able to replace yourself in the business that you're building. And for that, all you have to do is document what you do. It's a whole other thing. Oh my gosh, these people, where do they come from? It's a whole other thing. Sorry, I'm going to discipline myself to get to where I can eject people smoothly without having to make some little color commentary about it. It's an evolution, guys. I'm getting better. At least I don't get all frazzled by it anymore. But yeah, documenting what you need to do first to replace yourself. And eventually, then if, I think it'd be great if we were all teaching the world how to be successful entrepreneurs. But that takes a while to grow into. It's taken me 12 years. Anyway, so creating those processes. And that said, I'm going to give you the 5 buckets. This will be kind of my parting thought for the live here. I know this has been kind of a long one. I'm going to give you the 5 buckets. You need to start, at least this is one effective way to organize your business operations so that you can kind of track and figure out what goes where, and ultimately start thinking about where you would put people to offload responsibilities in your business. These are the 5 buckets: marketing, sales, tech, operations, and administration. And initially, it's just a really good sort of, heuristic, right? To look at your business and go, hey, do I even have all 5 of these things? Marketing, how are you generating leads and demand for your product or service, or at least initially awareness and ultimately demand about your product or service? Sales, how are you converting that awareness or that interest into actual paying customers? Technology, how are you being as efficient as possible, which in virtually every business in the world now involves utilizing technology to some degree. And usually the more the better, frankly. I know a lot of people don't want to say that because they want to make it like, oh, you don't have to know any tech. You can still crush it in the world today. You're going to be better off knowing some basic technology, like, software as a service platforms, right? Like funnel builders, autoresponder products. If you want to build a newsletter, it's better to do it online than to sketch it out by hand, right? So marketing, which is about demand generation; sales, which is about demand conversion; technology, which is about managing the tool set; operations, which is the products that you sell and the fulfillment on those products you deliver. And I'm being specific in terms of my definition of operations, sort of within the EOS framework. There's other ways to define operations, but it really doesn't matter what label you use. But for what I'm describing, I'm using operations to mean the products you sell and the fulfillment on the promises that you made at the point of sale. And then administration, which is basically your money, your people, and your compliance, right? Like your finance, and these, you can see these things, they become more or less significant at different stages in the business. But I'm going to say it again: marketing, sales, technology, operation, and administration. If you're starting a business, sit down and write those 5 words on a piece of paper. Figure out what tasks or functions within the business, projects, tasks, or functions, right? A project is something that needs to get executed. A task is usually a thing you do within a project, and a function is a recurring role within a business, right? And functions are usually made up of tasks that repeat. Projects are usually made up of tasks that need to happen one time. But the projects, functions, and related tasks there too within each of those 5 categories of your business, right? Marketing, sales, technology, operations, and administration. And Christian asked me to define marketing again in my own words. It's basically how you create awareness and ultimately demand for your products, right? It's what leads up to sales. No marketing, no sales. No sales, ineffective marketing, right? But they really do need to be thought of as 2 separate things, because it's very different psychologies of how you get people aware of and interested in your product, which is about giving value, and then getting them to buy your product, which is about exchanging value. It's not that the value piece goes away, but marketing is about giving value. Sales is about exchanging value. Different approaches, right? Different conversations, different talk tracks, different scripts, different psychologies, different timelines, right? Sales can't happen without a timeline. There has to be a point of demarcation. See how smooth I was on that one? I didn't even say anything until just now when I said something. But yeah, marketing, sales, tech, operations, and administration. Write down the functions, projects, and tasks within each of those buckets and already be thinking, what process would I have to create? What documentation would I have to create? And what budget would I have to achieve in order to be able to replace myself from that function? Nobody ever told me to do this. I very rarely see this prescribed to beginning entrepreneurs because it sounds kind of overwhelming, but that's why I'm so unapologetic about the hard things. If people are like, well, can you tell me the easy way to do it? Listen, Einstein said, make things as simple as possible, but never simpler. I would say in business, make things as easy as possible, but never easier, right? Anyway, I hope that's of value to you guys. This personal level, this is getting so fun to have this dynamic exchange with all of you and to be seeing this family continue to grow in a way that we're really connected. And I don't just feel like I'm a voice in the wilderness ranting for anyone that'll listen. I really appreciate you guys, all of you so much. You make it so fun to come to work every day. Thanks for those of you having my back on Instagram. Yeah, man, there's a lot of whack jobs out there, but their life is their own consequence. And I'm just grateful that I have my life and not theirs. So love, peace, prosperity to all. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks again. Take care.